Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Soul Goals Podcast. I'm Dawn, and I'm so glad you're joining me today. This podcast is dedicated to bringing people's stories to light and hearing their journeys of inspiration and self-growth. But it's also about connection and knowing that you are not alone. Each week, I get the chance to sit down and talk with an amazing soul, someone I've had the blessing of either meeting or following in my life. I am so grateful for my guests. Their openness and their vulnerability, it is unmatched as we share heartfelt conversations together about both their challenges and their triumphs. I hope that you can grab some inspiration and connection from my guests and their stories. I know I certainly have with each conversation. What an honor to sit with these brave souls. Everyone has a story, folks. And every story matters. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of The Soul Goals. I am Dawn, and today I have the pleasure of speaking to another amazing soul, as I always get to each week. This one is super special, though, because she is a diverse performer from multiple years in the country music industry, but not just country music. She also spans acting, songwriting, modeling, you name it. She is a beaut inside and out. Before we hit the record button with my technical difficulties, sorry about that, Lane. All right, we're cool now. It's interesting when you don't know much about engineering, but you're trying to get it all together, but we figured it out. Yeah, so thank you for being so patient with me. We're good now. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, Miss Lane Brody. Yes. Yes. Hey. How are you today?
Well, very, very cool what you're doing. I just love it. It's really special. I think
Oh,
and it's very wonderful. So I'm thrilled to be here. Yep.
well, good. Well, I'm glad you're here today too. Lane has such a rich background in performance. You started performing when you were like teeny tiny, 5 years old. Yeah. What was your first performance you did?
I was at a party with my parents, and I think it was at a country club or something, and the band was there. It was holidays, and I just jumped up and started singing carols, and everybody started singing with me, surprised folks, and I knew I wanted to sing from that age.
Oh, I love that. 5 years old. That's little bitty. Yeah. You went on to have like a couple really huge breakout years. 1983 and 1984 specifically were massive years for you. First of all, your song it's called Over You, correct? I'm going to say it the wrong.
But I want to go back to the beginning a little bit, because we're talking about the soul's goal. Certain things hit me very early on and began a certain process in terms of the world and what was expected. And I want to hear about this, women especially.
Yeah.
So if you don't mind, because I started in Chicago.
Okay. Where are you originally from?
Park.
Okay.
I was born in the same hospital as Betty White. Yay.
Okay. Golden Girls Unite. Let's go.
Yeah, she's awesome. Yeah.
I love that.
Miss her a great deal. But I started in Chicago, and I actually was raised in Racine, Wisconsin, which isn't too far.
Okay.
But I started there and became a jingle singer in my teens. And I was doing, actually a SAG after performer. So that was jingles that were Class A network program spots, McDonald's, Juicy Fruit, Kentucky Fried Chicken, all that. Very, very, very lucrative, very, very well. I lived on the Gold Coast, very young, very successful, and self-employed. And that's not something that women, were doing, but I was self-employed. I got with the modeling agency and started doing a lot of modeling ads, a lot of TV commercials, but the jingles were the thing that really were incredible. So I learned the business early on there.
How early? What were those what ages for you then?
I started really at 19 for my first jingle. I did actually was 16, but I didn't move until I was older.
Okay.
In my career. And I actually got my first record deal out of Chicago.
Wow.
So I have quite, it's amazing how the process is. And of course, live performing and all of those kinds of things to really learn how to perform on stage but being in the studio was the best, because that's how my manager at the time was helping me to learn how to put the emotion with the performance.
Yes.
And I had nothing to do with country music at all. I was kind of into jazz, smooth jazz, the
Yeah.
great standards, singer-songwriter kinds of things. I actually got offered a deal from my home when I was 16 and got a Paul Anka cut at 16.
Oh my gosh.
To your heart. Yeah, it was
Wow.
spoiled me. I sent one song to New York, and then they wanted to sign me, and then my mom was crazy. Well,
Lane.
yeah,
That's nuts.
yeah.
Wow.
So so part of what I'm saying this is about is because our focus can be on one thing, and I'm sure many of the listeners can understand that people take you a different direction, or the circumstances take you a different direction, or opportunities. It doesn't mean it's necessarily the right thing, but
Right.
you have to compromise to some degree when you're setting out on a goal to accomplish something. So
Yes.
in the world, I learned very young a lot of ploys being in Chicago. So
Mhm.
from there, I had my first record deal with GRT. A man named Dick Hurd was an amazing record man. He actually signed me, Al Stewart, Johnny Lee, who I ended up singing The Yellow Rose with,
Right.
Earl Thomas Conley. He had great ears for artists, yeah. And it had a single that was out and it went number one in all kinds of places. And that was my first soiree. And it hit the Billboard charts and everything. But
Yeah.
I couldn't do anything more in Chicago. I had done everything. So I left at my peak. I left at the peak of my career. And I was actually working Chicago and Milwaukee.
Okay.
So
So you left Chicago. And you went to,
yeah, LA. I never listened to country music. I never had any aspiration. The only time I ever heard country music was those that were really not country, that crossed over.
Yeah.
And you could hear them on pop radio. But I grew up with all the R&B stations. We could hit Milwaukee, Detroit, Chicago,
Oh
and
yeah. Detroit's like right close by there, basically. It's like in that area.
teenagers. Yeah, and I listened to my favorite singers. My greatest influence was Ella Fitzgerald and
Mm.
Mathis, who I ended up being able to sing with many years later.
Oh, I love that.
So they had a mentality, and this is what I'm saying is because anyone that's listening, there's choices. You got to be really careful about what you accept at the time you accept it.
Mhm.
Your
Yes.
your mentors or the people that are managing you or whatever. But at that time, there was not much I could do. They wanted to take female artists through the country music door. That's what
Okay.
they do.
So
So
they wanted to take you with
yeah,
the talent that you had and make you into something that they
they
wanted you to be.
have to go through country in order to cross over to pop. You couldn't just go straight into pop. That was the mentality. And
Wow. Do
very
you think that mentality is still kind of sticking around, or do you think it's shifted some?
mentalities are still there, but they're focused on different things. But
Okay.
the thing you came in through the country door, then you crossed over, which I did with Over You.
Yeah.
But that was kind of traumatizing, and I ended up coming back to my jazz roots and did a jazz album, which is what ended up having me have the opportunity to sing with the one that I really studied, which was Johnny Mathis. So
Yeah.
seeing how things. I received some great blessings that I say for my soul
Yeah.
because it took so many hits. So going back into to Chicago, it started very young. The sexual harassment. Okay, it was
Gosh. And you're 19, 20 years
yeah.
old.
It started even before that. I can remember,
Wow.
just with men and boys, and having to navigate through that because I had a really pure soul early on. I felt
Mhm.
comfortable in the world, and I know
Mhm.
now. And we'll get to
Yeah.
where we're at now by the grace of God.
Yeah.
I was shocked by a lot of things. So the Hefner machine was the deal in Chicago.
Mm.
Would scout all the models, and I wasn't with any of his people. I was with a different agency, but I broke exclusive and went multiple. Some businesswoman and ended up tripling my income, which made people mad. But Hefner was after me.
Oh, wow.
It was very difficult because I found out there was a bounty on my head, a $10,000 bounty to get my clothes off.
What?
And
What?
yeah, Richard Fagley was one of the top photographers at the time. Finally, I finally, when they got me in for a shoot under auspices of something else, I said, "Let me tell you something. I make a lot of money, probably a lot more money than you make."
Yeah.
Being
Yeah.
a singer. And I said, "And I have no aspirations to do this." Now we did cheesecake. You could see me wearing the shorts and doing all that kind of stuff and pulling
Yeah.
in but I never took my clothes off or ever did anything that would compromise who I am because I was always holistic
Right.
food and just
Yeah.
everything realistic in my faith in God. So it started there, and that was just very disgusting.
Mm.
I've watched many of the things that came out go on there at the mansion. They would invite all the models in. So I saw a lot of the Hollywood things that were going on, and I was very much like observing.
Yeah. So you were like a fly on the wall just watching it. Like, what was your, can you remember back like to one of your first times seeing what you were seeing and what you were thinking at that time?
Yeah, what I was thinking was I was watching the girls that were doing it, and then I could name them all. Right now, you
Mhm.
and I won't do it. I didn't do the things that they were
Yeah.
doing. I didn't do it. So
Yeah.
it's there. Then out to Hollywood, then I figured out how to deal with that whole scene. They were passing women around. I figured that out. So
Yeah.
I'm a smart businesswoman. As you know, I'm a CEO of Walden's Puddle now.
Yes.
In kind, that's my philanthropic work. So I got to use my brains and something to
Yes.
animals
Yeah,
of the community. Rather do that than me. So focus
for
on
sure.
something that's innocent. And
Hmm.
I was prey, and many women that found themselves being prey turned to helping animals. Doris Day did, and Bridget Bardot. Many women have done that, and it's pretty
Yeah. I
because
was going to ask you kind of what was your precipitous for getting to that point and wanting to do that, but that makes complete sense. If I think about the women that you just said.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was preyed upon. It never ended. I can count on one hand the men that didn't try something. It was horrible. It was like, we'll give you that, you do this, and we give you that. And
Yeah.
Hollywood was the same thing. So
Yeah.
I figured it out and ended up getting myself some powerful people that protected me and got me my record deal with Capital EMI early on. Done for
Yeah.
me, and I was very thrilled with that because I was in LA in the big time. I
Right.
got what it was I was hoping to do to be able to share my gift.
Right.
But there was many things that happened there that went against the grain for me because I never wanted to be an actress.
Mm. Wow. And that was where a lot of your early days began and where we're rooted in.
It's very weird because my management said, "Well, you got to study acting." I studied with a great coach named Jeff Corey, one of the greatest of all time, and he
Yeah.
lost his class because he was very, very harsh. And I thought it was hysterical. I loved it because I didn't have any desire to be an actress. And I
Yeah. Yeah.
said, okay, this is something else I can do to get open up, to be a performer. I just wanted to sing my songs and be on stage and record.
Yeah.
So by a whole series of circumstances, and there's a lot of these things, and folks who are listening, you'll have them happen in your life. Amazing things that are not like coincidences. You're doing something, and something else is happening that's putting you in a situation where you find yourself surprised. How did I get here? And
Right.
and and you're there in a situation. Well, that's what happened with me with acting. Is
Mhm.
agent by mistake. It totally by mistake. And I went in, and my coach said, "Oh, I didn't think it was you. I thought it was Lane Binkley." And I'm well here, and we went in, and they liked me. And the first call they sent me on was Taxi, and I got it.
Oh,
You
I loved it.
know,
Love that show.
no desire.
You're like, that's not really what I want to do.
No, no.
Wow. So
Because
it's kind of like that old adage, the overnight success, like how did I get here kind of thing? Well, it took you how long to get to that point, but then you're at this point, what I'm hearing you say is that you're at a point where you're like, that really wasn't where I was intending to go.
record deal, and they were pushing me to do another. What they would say is, just get successful. I wanted to be respected. I
Right.
wanted to be known as a voice.
Yeah.
In those days, when I was seeking my heart's desire as in terms of what I believe that the gift that God gave me to use it. I
Yeah.
had no idea that business music was going to be sell your soul to be heard to that
Yeah.
extent or not. And that's basically what it was from the beginning until
Yeah.
all the way through. And I kept making those choices where I said, I'm not going to do this. I wouldn't sleep with people. They either had to try to attack me, and they did, or
Mm.
I would thwart them. And
Mhm.
it was a constant war. You
Yeah.
can't just sing. I couldn't just be a singer. All I wanted to do was sing, but all of these other things were
What was this year time frame
well, it never ended until I finally backed away from it, and finally I was actually blackballed because it got to the point where I was the golden girl. I was slated for superstardom, but I made a lot of people mad because I wouldn't sleep with them. They were
Yeah.
powerful men.
Yeah.
So you don't sleep with them. Then I came to Nashville because when Michael Zinberg, who hired me for Taxi, wanted me to guest star on the show, The Yellow Rose, he wanted me to be Sybil Shepherd's younger sister.
Okay.
On the bus, and I'm not interested. They were trying to get me on Dallas, and I remember when I got my sides and was reading through that, I said, "This is it. I'm not doing this anymore." Because she walks in and she's got this white dress on and the orchid behind her ear, and I thought she wants this as much as I want my record deal. I'm not going to take this.
Wow, what an interesting perspective for you to have right there.
I sit down the sides and I said, I'm going to tell you, I'm never going to do this again. I'm telling my management, leave me alone. I'm a singer. I don't care about fame. I want to sing and grow as an artist.
Yeah.
Goals. All right.
Yes.
I think that my soul was wanting to feel all of that and accept the pain and accept because but when I was going through it, it was very much a struggle. I couldn't understand. I felt like I was bound and gagged. But I didn't go that route. And she went in and she got it. It was Audrey Landers. She got the role on Dallas.
Okay.
And I did another reading after that again. But I did get called back to guest star on Heart of the City many years later.
Yeah. Okay.
Again. He wanted me back in Hollywood. So so I did do a few things like that I felt were fun. And I played a country singer in that.
Okay.
So The Yellow Rose.
That was different for you. Yeah. That was a much different place because you had gotten to this point where you're like, this is
about singing. I was actually that time blackballed in Nashville. I was nominated for top new female vocalist.
Mm-hmm.
The head of the academy attacked me and said, I can hurt you, I can help you. And
Lane.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And there's a lot of corruption in all this stuff, guys. I don't know if you know that, but there's a lot. It's very political. It's very who knows who's sleeping with who's doing what with whoever.
Yeah.
And, I managed to definitely skirt all that. I took all the hits, but I never became part of any of that.
Right.
I always kept on the outside. Yeah. And I really believe in my heart of hearts because I'm a Christian through and through, and I'm an Orthodox Christian, angel, which is the strugglers and the sufferers and the martyrs, that I was protected by that. I was baptized in days. I had good upbringing, Greek, strong women. Never needed to know who I was because they told me that.
You already knew. That was going to be one of my questions is where do you think you got that formidable piece from?
God, strength of strong women who gave me, and it's very important that parents do that for children.
And you always had that. I feel like that's always been innate within you.
Oh yeah, and that I'm so grateful to my mother and my grandmother for that, and my aunts, beautiful aunts that also great examples. Yeah. And I never had any self-confidence issues, and I think that's what brings a lot of people down. And I would warn young people who are listening, don't let them do it. Don't get your opinion of who you are from anyone, from any man. Compare. If you want to compare yourself, study the saints. That's who I was. I studied the saints, the martyrs, the struggles they went through in order to attain who they were. Yeah. And people later they were very upset by what happened to me because it was always what happened to Lane Brody because I was the golden girl slotted for that superstardom. Yeah. And I was around a lot of women that, God bless them. I mean, everybody has the choice. We have free will. And I pray for everybody. I consider myself the least a sinner. I have no, you know what I mean? I've read 100 books on my faith and I have a lot of knowledge, but I claim ignorance before God. I'm before him as a repentant sinner. I'm walking this earth, and everything that happens in a lifetime, and this is where really the kind of the core of me.
Yeah, for sure.
That everything, as long as it doesn't take away from the journey of purification as a soul, purifying, getting rid of anything that's dark or evil or negative, illumination, knowledge to higher things, okay? As long as it doesn't get away in the way of that, it all serves its purpose because it's teaching you, and your soul is going through the struggle. And it's growing and it's learning, and you're becoming a spiritual warrior, and you're also learning your feebleness before God,
Yeah.
because then you can give everything to Him. He's the one that's guiding you.
Mhm.
He's the one that's changing the circumstances. And when I hit that wall, that's when that whole flip turned around. When I was blackballed and I was slandered,
Mhm.
it was horrible.
Do you think though that that piece of you that you speak, that confidence you spoke about, and that gift that you got from the women in your life very early on, that I'm going to call it like sewn into your DNA, basically?
And my guardian angels, they were all there around me watching me.
Yeah, that was going to be my question. Is like things could have been so much different, I think, for you if you did not have that innate.
There was never a question or a doubt in my mind about what I did.
Mhm.
When I was a child, I was not one of these kids that could say, "Oh, I made a mistake, Mom." I knew exactly what I was doing from the time I was very young. And I did not like it here. I was not comfortable in the world, which is a great thing because I'm just passing through. I
Yeah.
know this is a temporal, we don't know how much time we have.
Yep.
So
Yep. Yep.
I always held the ethics, the morals, the integrity, and that's what I was penalized for.
Yeah.
And
That's
so
so sad.
so be it. And it's an entertainment industry that likes shock and awe. They like to reinvent yourself and do all those kinds of things.
Sure.
And that's not who I am. And if you get deeper into my story, there's just incident after incident where that these things are happening, ramifications as a result of it. But when
Mhm.
point, because this is what your podcast is all about, the soul's goal.
Yeah.
When I really studied my faith, when I really started to learn what I was born into, cradle, and I have many godchildren, so I'm a spiritual mother to many now. I realized that when we want something and we're seeking something, you're handing the weapon over to the bad guys. They know what to use against you. So
That's a great piece right there. Yeah.
yes, when that happens, and it doesn't happen easily, because I used
Mhm.
to stretch my hands out to people and say, you have to understand, you got to let go of this, let go in order to grasp this and to
Mhm.
receive what that is. And that's the
Yeah.
higher power. That's the power of God and the angels and the Lord, because I am a Christian and I will say it to anyone at any time.
Yeah.
He's my strength, my rock. Every example, I'm a disciple. I don't change his words. I try to live by them to the best of my ability. If I
Mhm.
fall, I get up. But at that point, that is when I realized I'm going
Yeah.
low, go low and go sure, like the ascetics in my faith,
Right.
and Mount Athos and the Holy Mothers, and just a sinner. I'm just a one person, but I'm just go low, and I started digging in the dirt
Mhm.
and and just struggled through it until
Yeah.
killed by the grace of God, or He took it from me.
Mhm. That's you kind of hit that bottom. When you hit that bottom, like, it's where else do you have to go?
The beautiful thing was I was so blackballed and slandered everywhere I turned. The door was shutting, and they were playing games with me. I could rid of
Mhm.
games, and I do want to get back to the yellow rose because people love to hear that
Yeah,
story.
for
But
sure.
but that was where they were taking my daily bread. They were trying to take my concerts. I was too strong. I was getting so many standing ovations, encores everywhere I went all over the world.
Mhm.
And I have a great fan base. Thank you to the people who still
Mhm.
music on Spotify and Rhapsody, still putting my music out.
Yeah.
Just not involved. And my husband and I do it together. He's in the Hall of Fame. Eddie Bears, uh,
Yes, yes.
my holy sacrament. So,
Yeah.
um, so I went low, and in going low, I just said to the Lord, "I'll use my gift on mercenary without
Mhm.
charge." So all of us at USO tours and um, memorials for fallen police officers, children's.
Yeah.
So I started doing concerts and all events to raise money for the charitable.
Yeah, your purpose starts to come forward and bubble up for you at that point. I think how hard do you think it is for people to just you did that the reach from here to here, like to get to that point for people to understand to let go of that control and that expectation of wanting it so badly a certain way?
Will of God, and that what I said earlier is He allows this. He allows all
Yeah.
to watch us. What are we going to do with it?
Yeah. What are we going to do with it? That's it. What are we going to do with it?
My beauty back. I denounced it. I gave my talent back. I denounced everything. I
Oh,
said nothing before you, because I know and I learned, because I've studied my faith. If you're nothing before God, He can use you for everything, every purpose, and every good thing. If you're
if you're nothing before God, He can use you for every purpose and everything. That's great.
nothing before Satan, He can't use you.
Yeah.
And you can't play the game. You can't make deals. If you're making deals, you're still selling your soul. And
Yeah.
any other person can make whatever choice they want to make. They have free will. For
Mhm.
me, this was not a purpose or anything like that. This is, if we live in the will of God to begin with, everything will be in a whole different manner for all mankind. We are
Sure.
people in general. You know what I mean?
Yes.
We're
Yeah.
balls left and right, and
Yeah.
so He allows everything to happen. And
Mhm.
I never confused worldly prosperity with God's blessings, and a lot of
Mhm.
people do that. And I don't look at that like, oh, God blesses you with all this money and power because you love Him and you're seeking Him first. No,
Yeah.
because my faith, okay, is based on the blood of the martyrs. The apostles, they walked with them, and do you think were raised up with wonderful lives with money and fame and power?
Yeah. They were in the thick of it, kind of like when we are in the thick of we're in the weeds basically of our life. We're in the weeds of it.
They
Yeah.
were they were murdered. They were slaughtered, and I think it was St. Andrew that said, don't. I'm not worthy to be hung up right side up. I'm not worthy to be crucified right side up. You know, they walked with them. So anybody that says to me, you know what I mean, that God is bestowing all of the, no, the world is the world. He came
Yes.
to show us the way out. I have attained through His grace and many, many years of ascetic struggle, fasting, prayer, denouncing, to the point where I could go to these events. And I'm still present. You know, I go
Yeah.
to the Hall of Fame with my husband every year. We do those things, but I go and have no desire. They know who I am because I always was kind of an enigma, sort of a mystery, and
Yeah.
I met everybody. I'm in the tapestry, but I'm not of it. And
Yeah.
it's a great thing because I have achieved freedom from. And
Yeah.
now every day of my life is only live to get up and say, Thy will be done, you know, and may all come to the knowledge of the fullness of your truth. And
Yeah.
may, you know, uh, prosper in God, you know, I mean, in the life that is good and
Right.
hope, you know, I mean, not steeped in the world. And I feel awful for so many people that are lost in addiction and all those kinds of things.
Right.
It
Right.
is an addiction. Money's an addiction. Power's an addiction. Drugs are an addiction.
Yeah.
Alcohol, sex, it's all an addiction.
Multiple addictions. Mhm.
They're
Yeah.
trying to satiate something. I found it. I found it. And it has nothing to do with this. It's a satiation that's beyond human comprehension.
Yeah. What would you tell those individuals that are so stuck in those places that they're seeking outside of themselves in that way?
Well, don't take for granted that everything that you hear on the radio and TV about Christ, the Messiah, is true. Do your own research and keep,
Yeah. Yeah.
because unfortunately, as time has traveled, like anything else, they used to do this thing where they have like 10 people in a line, and they give the one at the start a word or a line to say, and then it goes to each person. They tell
It's
them
fun. Yeah. It's like the telephone game. Yeah.
the end, it's nothing like what it was at the beginning. And
Yeah.
what has happened so much with Christianity.
Mhm.
So keeps, because there's a simplicity that's there that is so beautiful, that's
Mhm.
in you and, you know, your maker. And I just, through the struggle and the suffering and the glorification of God through all of it, which totally stymies the evil one that can put doubt in your brain, depression in your brain. So many people get depressed and upset
Yeah.
because in what I've learned is, if you're uncomfortable here, and this is advice I would give, yes.
Yeah. It's so hard, I think, and I understand completely where you're coming from, because if I look back at the struggles and the addictions and the things that I have gone through and that I've worked through and progressed through and where I've gotten to at this point, I think to myself, it's really hard for people to accept that this is like this is part of the process and this is part of the blessing, right? It's part of the uncovering of who you are and to getting to the root of what you desire and what's appropriate for you.
human beings have to see the bad in order to understand the good. You have to understand to step spiritual warriorship. You have to know what that is. You have to feel the pain and the suffering and the struggle. If there was not bad, we wouldn't know what good is. So he allows all this to be. He is the evil one. And I say it, a lot of people don't want to believe that he exists. I know he does. The evil one is out there working overtime. And if you don't know that warfare is going on, you don't know the warriorship, and you don't know what your weapons are. And you don't know, if you don't self-examine, you don't know how he goes after you.
Right.
So
It's self.
Watching the girls that said who I have to get that, and watching them all be superstars, and I didn't do it, and be at the point where I'm saying, glory be to God. God bless them, love you, and praying for them. I pray they pray for me.
Yeah.
Free. You reach a point of freedom from, not freedom in. Okay, we have the freedoms here.
Freedom from. Mm-hmm. Yeah, perfect.
What's loosed on earth is loosed in heaven. If you're in bondage to money and fame and power, you need this. I see so many people, they have to reinvent themselves. They have to have that attention. They have to have that confirmation of their existence. Love the self and all that. The very danger zone.
Yeah. So I think you said it really brilliantly a little bit ago. It's going to that place of self-reflection, and being open to doing that.
Self-examination, where you know what your weaknesses are.
Yeah.
You have to be responsible for that. We're going to be held responsible for that.
Yeah.
We have an author of our life, a creator that knows every hair on every head. And if I didn't know him, I couldn't be the CEO of Walden's Puddle and help so many animals, because I've been rescuing my whole life, rescuing dogs and cats. And what I did too, when they were blackballing me, I just continued to rescue animals and vet them and get them out of Dodge, get them adopted, and watch those wonderful, unions between people and animals. Yeah. I know he takes care of all of them. And my fellow rescuers often would say, well, how does God allow this? Because he has them after they're out of here. They're his. You can't even comprehend what the glory is of heaven. Of what we can receive there. Yeah. We take, shed this.
Right. It's such a really interesting dichotomy, because in the density of the world that we're all in right now, it's really, really easy to stay so locked into that place of, like what you were saying, like why people questioning, why is it so bad? If God is here, why is he allowing this to happen? Why are we having to go through this stuff? I mean, I remember questioning that. Why is this happening? A lot of people that are guests on my show that have gone through so many hard concepts and situations will do the same thing. Say they struggled with that point, but the one common thread with all of them is that on the other side, they get to the other side of it where they go, I wouldn't change that struggle one moment of it.
That's how it should be, because that's what's feeding the soul. It's teaching you, and that's bringing you closer to God. When I was in the bus and I had hit that point where there was no place I could turn, I was on my knees. And it's scripture, although I don't like to quote a lot of scripture, but he said he doesn't despise a broken and humbled heart. I was broken. I couldn't make a move. I was ready to move back to Los Angeles, and his hand moved, and I ended up meeting my husband. He everything shifted in a way that was miraculous. I watched people fall out of my life. Yeah. I said, I prayed, thy will be done. Remove all evil and negativity from my path, so I can that innocent little child that I always was, that little girl that was so attacked as and I think sometimes that begins because when you proclaim him and you're fighting the good fight and seeking all the good and the divine grace of God, you are a threat. You are a threat.
I can see that. Yeah.
So in my faith, we have lots of weapons. We have Holy Eucharist, we have confession, we have all these things, holy water, and I use them all.
Yeah.
Fight that fight, and that helps us, and it shores us back up.
Right.
And now every day I'm grateful that I have another breath to repent, because it all starts with going low and realizing that He's everything. He's the author of my life, and now I'm writing and I'm singing. It's a freedom that has nothing to do with this. It's called business music, music business. It's ugly. It's ugly. I can't tell you anything.
You call it business music.
Yeah. And so, but anyway, so to a positive light on worldly sense of the success of Yellow Rose, I would like to just let people know what that was all about. If we have
Yes.
time.
Yeah, for sure. So the Yellow Rose was a song that was created. It was a duet, actually. You and Johnny Lee sang together, and was that in '84 or '83?
I think what happened was John Wilder, I think it was '84, called me
Hmm.
because I had done Taxi. I was
Right.
in, and he said I would like you to sing this song. And Johnny doesn't even really know this whole story. They're celebrating the anniversary, and I told this publicist, you really don't want to know the whole story because it would upset him. He wasn't my first choice.
Oh, Johnny wasn't your first choice to do the duet with. Who was?
Tom Bresh. He was my partner at the time.
Okay.
Homemade Love. He had Homemade Love, and he was actually too busy. He was doing a rich little special. He was an impressionist, and they said, "Well, we got to get this done pretty quick." So I talked to my manager. I said, "What about that guy that sang "Looking for Love"? You know, because I wasn't really that hip to country artists."
Yeah.
And he said, "Oh, Johnny Lee." So he called his people, and they talked about it, and he said, "Okay, we'll do it." So we did the lines for the TV series, and it became this thing. John Wilder wrote that aspect of it. Then I was already starting to go through a lot of trauma between Nashville, wanting me to come to Nashville and be country, and the LA office wanting to be pop. That's a whole nother hell that I went through.
Yeah.
I was already in that fight, and I knew I needed a hit. So I said, well, what about making it a record? Because Over You had screamed up the charts, and it was Oscar nominated, and that got me a lot of attention because it was ballad and got to really show my chops.
Right.
And I got them. You know?
Yes. And that was you getting to do what your soul's desire was.
And I recorded that, by the way, in the stacks, the Capitol record stacks, and they used the original. You know how they do echo on a track?
Yeah.
Maybe you don't understand.
Yeah, I do.
Now it's all Pro Tools and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
But I got to record at Capitol Records. That was one take Over You all the way through. And it was the echo chamber in the bottom, which they filled up with water. And they would actually lower the water and raise the water to create.
God.
Yeah. And that's why I recorded Over You. And I knew when I did it, it was a hit. I knew it. I just could feel it. And over and over again, and you just never got tired of it. It was just had that magic thing.
Yeah.
So that I got to do a song like that. And some of my peers who also did not, they were stifled in many other ways. A lot of the artists were stifled. They had it, like Pam Tillis had, maybe it was Memphis. That was a screaming ballad for her. There was another one, Baby I Lied, Deborah Allen. She had the opportunity to show her chops. So some of us gals from that time that were left behind because they all of a sudden decided to sign a lot of youngins. They were like 13, 16, 18.
Babies. Yeah.
And that's why you see this gigantic gap. And all you see is the old guard, Dolly and all of them, and many of them are dying. And then Reba and a few of them are age range. But who else? Very few from the 90s. They kind of dumped a lot of artists. And I stayed in country because I thought there was loyalty. The fans are loyal. Forget
about it, isn't it?
The fans are the best. They never forget you. And I love them to pieces, and they know it. And I've answered every piece of fan mail, and I still do.
Yes, that's what I understand. You do. Mm-hmm.
We become friends. And all of my closest, they came in for get-togethers, fan club get-togethers, and they became my brothers and sisters. And, stay. It's the most beautiful thing. So anyway, the Yellow Rose, so I said to my manager, that could be a single for me. And he said, you know what, that could. So we called his people, and they said, yeah, come to Nashville and we'll record it. So we went into Nashville. And Jimmy Bowen, who's very famous here, he said, this is corny, we're not going to do it. Now, I knew really bad. So they all went to lunch, and I sat on Reggie Young's guitar case and wrote the Yellow Rose. Nobody else wrote it except John Wilder had a few lines on the beginning of it. But
okay. So wait, you came here to record it. They said it's cheesy. They go to lunch. You sit down and you rewrite it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We wrote the whole thing. And I said, Mr. Bowen, because I wanted to play ball. I wanted, I was new. I had Over You was a country hit. And I had hits before that. I had he's taken more nights. There was other chart records that I had done.
Yeah.
So I wanted to play ball so they knew that, I was friendly and everything like that.
Yes.
Well, Johnny, we wrote it together. He said, I didn't write it. I said, oh, no, So I gave him a third of the song.
Okay.
So
It was very nice of you.
yeah. So we went in and we did it. Now, this is the thing. My manager said, we want this to be the single. Well, it's got to be on Warner Brothers. So that made my label even madder at me because they were mad at me for a lot of reasons we won't go into. And then it became his record on Warner Brothers. And then it was Johnny Lee with Lane Brody. And like when you said about Brady, when it was going up to Cashbox, they actually didn't even have my name on it. When they put it on, it was Brady.
Oh, your name was wrong?
Brady. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I have so many hysterical stories like this. I got to write the book because, and all I could do was just say, here we go again.
Yeah.
Johnny hated me because my record was Say When. And I happened to call Warner Brothers and they said, no, it's not, it's Say When, backed with the yellow rose. That's when there was two sides, right?
Yeah. Side A and side B. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yellow rose backed with, no, it's Johnny Lee. It's Say When, backed with the yellow rose. Well, I had a phone, and this is another lesson for everybody listening. Personal relationships, children.
Yes. I tell my kids that all the time.
Foster your personal relationship.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Because my office was on the Burbank lot in Hollywood, my manager. So I got on that phone every morning and called all the radio stations all over the United States from the very first record that I put out. And I knew which one played every one of my records. I knew the names of their kids and their dogs. I sent them cookies. I sent them Pringles from Racine. I sent them hand-painted rocks. The label got mad because they said, who's sending all this heavy stuff out? Because I was sending rocks out to the radio guys, and I did their logos on them and everything.
Oh, my gosh. You went above and beyond.
I loved what I do. And just being who I am and sharing the love. And that's the other thing. Love what you do. And then no matter what they do to you, they can't give you what you already have. You have enough. They're going to offer you something else. But that's what I say to people. Hey, they can't give me anything greater than what I already have. I have.
And they can't take that away from you because it's you. No. They can't take you away from you.
That's another lesson. But these relationships, I called all these radio stations. I already had previous relations with them. And I said, I am, I am, by the grace of God, doing a duet with this man, Johnny Lee, on the TV show. And they loved it and everything. I said, well, it's going to be our next single. It's coming out soon.
Okay.
All these radio guys, when they got his single, Say When, from Warner Brothers, they flipped it. And nobody could understand. And I'm in the office with my manager going,
they were like, what?
Yeah, one or two people that found out from radio that I had been there before they were. And I had told everybody that the Yellow Rose was coming. And
wow.
50. Now, Johnny wouldn't even talk to me. We were doing TV shows and he was standing far away from me. I said, you're going to argue with the biggest record you've had since Looking for Love. And it really was. It's in the 100 great duets of all time. This was a great and beautiful thing we got to do together. Be joyful about it.
Yeah.
Hear it. It's still beloved. Young kids love it. People still play it.
Yeah.
So I was second fiddle to him through that entire thing. Even on TV shows, they never let me talk. They always had me on the side, brought me out to sing the song. But that was in humility before God. I was standing in the back of the grips, and I was always watching the people in the kitchens. And when I went on USO tours, I made sure that I gave everything that I got as the star to all the people that were doing all the hard work.
Yeah.
Everything shifted. We're watching and seeing everything, paying attention to what does he feel? What does she feel? I'm on stage. Where's the energy coming from that's off? When I'm signing autographs, somebody's unhappy about something. Giving a hug, spending a little extra time.
Do you feel like those periods of time really fine-tuned that antenna inside of you?
Oh, yes, because when I took on Walden's Puddle, it had a thief in there that I had told the board he was a thief. I told them that he was going to rob him. And through the grace of God, sometimes I know things. And they hired him anyway, so I left the board over with a letter. And in 3 years, he robbed and stole. And I was doing concerts for Walden's Puddle because I love wild animals and all animals.
Yeah.
So long story, but when I stepped in, it was dead. And when I talked to God about it, and certain things had to happen before I would do that.
Yeah.
I said, if I do this, Lord, I want to gain virtue. I want
Mhm.
to, some virtue that's pleasing to you by going low. And I did. I cleaned the toilets. I cleaned up the blood, the
Yeah.
urine.
Yeah.
Watched them suffer and fed them treats through the crate while I had to make a lot of money, which we came from 250,000. This is what the Lord did. Grace of God. I'm just a vessel.
Yeah.
Wants to be just a vessel. We now are a $600,000 a year
Oh,
meeting price.
that's amazing. Oh, you can help so much. You can do so much with that. That's great.
We got the perp in jail. The year we put him in jail on 4 felony counts, I was watching the riverfront stages where I'd always done the concerts for CMA Fest.
Yeah.
And the Lord didn't have me down there singing that year. He had me up in the DA's office, getting some justice for this little place. And
Oh.
yeah, and so we made it, and I've learned a lot of virtues. And now
Mhm.
I think that as a leader, I have I'm hard when I have to be to do business, but I have this great ability to sense everybody's needs,
Yeah.
that's involved.
And
And
you never would have gotten to that point if you hadn't have gone through all those lows, those lows.
star, you're a star in the beginnings of it. Everybody starts lavishing it, because I had everything, the first class treatment and all that stuff going on. I never wanted that anyway, though. I never felt comfortable in that. I have to say
Okay.
that. I never said I want a crystal chandelier and a bus or anything like that. I just wanted to sing and be a voice. And you know what? I am. Every time I speak, I'm voice, and hopefully I can bring the grace of God through my life experiences. And every time I sing, I'm singing to the glory of God.
Yeah.
And I have to say, I did the Grand Ole Opry and the Ryman,
Yeah.
and it was in a very difficult time when I did it that I was going through. And I always cross myself and say, Lord, I'm just the vessel through which you do your work. Stepped out, and I got a full house standing ovation. And
Oh.
Eddie Stubbs came up to me afterwards. He grabbed me by the shoulder. He said, "You understand what you've done, And like that. See, I didn't understand. I didn't know.
You didn't know. Yeah.
I
Mhm. Yeah.
didn't
Well, I think
want that.
what you're
And
explaining though is
I did something that doesn't happen at the Ryman. You know what I'm saying? I didn't even know that's something that doesn't happen at the Ryman, because if I don't leave the stage with people on their feet, I feel like I haven't done my job.
yeah,
To me, that was nothing. To country music, that was huge.
it's everything. Yeah. Yeah.
He said, I'm documenting this right now in the history of the Ryman Auditorium this night that you received this standing ovation.
Yeah.
And
Well, I think what you're speaking to is the release of expectation.
I had none. I just was doing what I always do, but to them, that meant something huge.
Yeah.
It was to the glory of God. When I left, I said, all glory to God.
Yeah.
And I think oftentimes that when you give the glory to God, people's energy shifts. When I talked to some teenagers, and they were rowdy and they didn't want to hear anybody talk, who does she think she is? And the first question was, who is your biggest influence? And I said, God. And
Wow.
it's silent. And the kids started applauding. They needed to hear that. You know what I mean? Then they wanted to hear what I had to say.
Well, but it's that they needed to hear that it's okay.
Yes.
That it's okay to have that as that's your guide. Like they needed to hear that that's okay. And this, again, I keep going back to this day and age, this density of the world that we're in. It's really, gosh, we get so caught up in the expectations and caught up in what we term success. I think it's really, I think this conversation is super valuable in the fact of knowing that we all have choice and we all have the ability to go through all those pieces, but we also have the ability to choose where we're going to end up on the other side of it in terms of our attitudes and in terms of our processes, right? And letting that
Through
expectation release.
the grace of God, because, I am one that doesn't speak for him. I don't say I'm saved. I'm going to heaven. I know. I am one that comes before him every day on my knees and every night. Have mercy on me. Lord, have mercy on me, a sinner, every day, because I know that I have no comprehension of his goodness. His goodness is so much greater than whatever it is that I've done that I'm sorry for, that, overshadows it all. And I do know that. And I think I would say that to people. There's hope. There's nothing that can't be forgiven that he won't forgive.
Mm-hmm.
And people want to find that within themselves, but you know what? That's not really where it comes from. It comes from our Creator.
Mm-hmm.
He stands for everything that's good and holy and purposeful, and he's the just one. He's the one that is all about justice. We don't get justice here. People are trying to get justice here. Good luck.
Yeah. Right. What would you say to someone with someone that's in the thick of it, that may be hearing this and go, okay, Lane, that's great. I'm in a really crappy place. Wow, like, I understand what you're saying, but how do I get there? What's my first step? That hope. There's always hope. And I think a lot of times, like, if I look at it from where I'm at now, I'm like, I can see the forest for the trees, but when you're in the middle of it, how do you pull yourself to that point, to that next, to take that first step?
Well, I'm not a psychologist, and I'm not a shrink, but I am a spiritual mother to many spiritual children, God children. Mm-hmm. And the one thing that I have learned, so I can't say this is an easy answer. The one thing that I've noticed, that those children that have been brought to me to care for and help to find their way to that peace, because what we want is that inner peace, to know that we're on the right path.
Yeah.
Confirmations that look like they're actually miracles. They look like confirmation. They look like they're just coincidences, but they're true confirmations that you are where you're supposed to be.
Yes.
It's very important for people, because then you're not just guessing. Am I doing right? Yeah, you do, once you seek the greatest, the greater of all, you do get confirmations and miracles. Mm-hmm. So, first of all, the children that I found that were in their darkest hour, that had a relationship or some kind of love for God, okay. The Lord, they were easier to bring out of than the ones that were in the mire of the evil spin of where you're not good enough. And one of the Holy Fathers say that we love is to be disappointed is one of the evil's greatest tools.
Yeah,
because it's a small thing, but from that disappointment comes depression, and I should have done this, I could have done better, I did that.
Mm-hmm.
And out of control, and then you're in this dark place where nothing is going the way that I want it to go. Well, that's when the next thing I pray for all people, which I spoke about, when I broke before him, when I got on my knees and I said, I can't do this. I can't do this. I don't know where to turn, and I'm so grateful he allowed that for me to feel that. And if they're in that dark place, that's when you go on. That's when you say, take me. Mm-hmm. This,
yeah.
This isn't it.
Just go with that release.
Yeah. Yeah, let it go, and then see what he does. And all of a sudden, like with me, people were dropping like flies, even family members. He removed all kinds of things.
Yeah.
Didn't come back at some point, but I had to let go and say, okay, your will be done. If you don't want me hanging here, you don't want me hanging there, I am not going to fight for it. I'm not going to not pay attention. And that's the other thing I would tell strugglers is pay attention, because he's always giving you guidance. Listen to your gut. Pay attention to those little things that seem like they're coincidences, but they're not. You're there. We're here for right now at this moment, because they're supposed to hear what I have to say. And I'm receiving so much by even sharing this, because I'm feeling the energy that I know people have that are listening. I can feel it right now. And I just say that little whisper in their ear, it's attainable to reach that place of peace and freedom from everything that we think we're supposed to be doing here in the world, when ultimately we don't take nothing with us. And everybody knows that. If we're finally lying on our deathbed and we have no control over anything, then finally happens there. But why not have it happen now?
Earlier, let's tap into it now. And that way you have so much more freedom in your mind and in your life.
I can't give enough now. I give everything I can. If I got 2 coats, I'm saying I got to give. I don't need to. I'm always giving.
Yeah.
And that's what starts happening is you just can't give enough because you just want to see others share in that, whatever that releases, that freedom. And I'm not saying the guy say, I'm a Christian, tell me what you're using this money for. No, but that there's hope, that there's love, there's hope and there's love.
Mm-hmm.
That drink of water, that's the other thing. To give that drink of water to an animal in need, to save, to rescue that animal, to bring it, can care for it, to help the child, to give that word of encouragement to somebody, no matter who they are.
Yeah.
And especially now to look beyond race, creed, color, all of these things that are getting so twisted, political. Oh, are you far right? Are you far? No, I'm pro humanity. I am pro, God's children. That's and that's what I try to feed and care for His creation, because we're on a planet now that needs us all to care forever.
Yeah, we sure are.
Yeah, pay attention to what we're eating, what we're spending our dollars, and what we're putting in our bodies, and think holistically that there's big business out there that's going to take us down a certain road to eat certain things, and that same business owns the stock to the drug you're going to have after you eat that stuff.
Absolutely.
Don't be a patsy. Don't be brainwashed. That holistically from within yourself and listen to that still voice of God, each one of us, to guide you and clean us up and bring us out of that. So
I think that's so invaluable too, that it's being able to listen to what you're being. That's a super skill, I think, for a lot of people.
It comes with time, and don't forget mentors. I have many mentors that helped me with Walden's Puddle. I had a great coach that became my spiritual mother. She was the second mother, my blood mother, and then spiritual mother. And accept these mentors and listen to people that have wisdom, are older. One of the things I'm excited about, I got to just say, is the Bachelor, the Golden Bachelor. As stupid as that may sound. A whole, they broke records, and the entertainment industry realized that people over 65 are out there, and they got money, and they want to watch stuff. So I'm hoping we're going to see more shows like that.
Right.
The wisdom, because we're all connected, and the kids of those people, they wanted to see their parents finding love again. They wanted to see them happy. Spouse. So we're all interconnected, so they could see there really isn't an age gap. We're all going. And when I was a little girl, because I'm a poet, I write lots of poetry, and I wrote something that said, old people, they're where we've been and where we're going. And I kind of feel that way about what happened now is all of a sudden entertainment business is paying attention.
Yeah.
So older artists will get a chance to be heard a little bit more. Maybe there'll be more, shows.
Well, they'll be given more opportunities, and they'll be understood, maybe. Yeah. But as I'm sitting here listening to you, you're such an old soul. And have you always felt like I know you talked about earlier, not really feeling like you belong?
Well, I don't believe in reincarnation or anything like that. But I do, in reading the lives of the God pleasers and the saints, and there's thousands of them because they're all documented in my faith. We keep the story from all over the world, from Romania, Russia, Greece, because that's where the apostles went and taught this early orthodoxy and suffering and struggling well. And they were all in tatters. It's all written. Okay. Yeah. So I believe that He endows us, each of us, with different things, with different gifts.
Different gifts. Okay.
And I'm grateful that one of mine was that I felt uncomfortable, but my first recollection was, I don't belong here. That was my recollection. So when everything happened to me, it sort of went along with what I felt as a little girl, that I didn't belong here. So I was uncomfortable in situations of too much glitz and glamour, and then there's the aspect of highly sensitive people, of which I think you are one.
Yeah. Yes.
It's scientific now that they document our brainwaves are different. We're picking up different information when we're in a room than a lot of these children. They misunderstand them. So they're now starting to understand that. And even in businesses now, they're hiring highly sensitive people, and they're not getting into trouble for being highly sensitive, like knowing something's going to happen. When
crazy. Yeah.
So
I had that experience.
Those kind of things are happening now that are kind of interesting. So I think I was just endowed with that like the gift of the voice.
Mhm.
And I think that many things were acquired. I think parents need to really, not be the kids' friends, but be their parents, give them discipline and guide them and introduce them to a lot of different things.
Yes.
They'll make their own choices, but don't wait until they're older. Start when they're young.
Right.
Give them many, introduce them to lots of stuff. Kids are
Totally agree.
given credit for. And then the influence of my family, which was for some reason I never needed man's approval.
Approval. Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah. So as long as you can remember.
yeah, no, yeah. So I never, and with all the pressure, the sexual harassment and everything, especially that happened during this time. But don't think they're not still happy with this. It's still,
I know, but if you think about it though, that like if you didn't have that,
yeah.
like I don't need that approval, what road could have you gone down?
I don't know. I really just am so grateful for where I'm at. I'm grateful to God for. Now I look back and I look at in the going back to the Bible, meaningless, meaningless, meaningless. I look so back at so much stuff and say meaningless, and every single day of my life is so much meaningless time that
Yeah.
I notice it a lot more. So
Yeah.
I pray to fill that with what's meaningful to Him, to serve in a way that's good. And if that moment it seems like it's lost, then I immediately start praying because we need lots of prayers for peace, suffering. There's so much suffering all over the world. And
Yes.
there's another gem, if I can share it. Get
Yeah.
out of self. Forget this self-love, self-will. It doesn't work. When
Mhm.
you start to get out of the self and you start to empathize with others and you start to feel what they feel, you start to connect with what's going on inside of you. And
Yeah.
everything shifts. You start to feed them, give them a drink of water, go help, go volunteer at Walden's Puddle. We'd love
Yes.
to have,
Yes, yes, for sure. Yeah.
and just help, go help the community, do something. And then you no longer have that it's a selfishness. It really is. And it's another addiction. You're
Yes. I
actually
totally agree.
addiction.
Mhm. Mhm.
And, and to come out of it, the best way to come out of it is to help others.
Yeah. Reaching out, helping, volunteering. Yeah. Everything that you just said, it is so integral to knowing yourself more intimately. Yeah. Yeah. And being a fuller person.
It's
Yeah. Where do you see yourself 5 or 10 years from now?
well, I don't know. I don't know. That's kind of a hard one because I just live in the will of God. In my heart, I feel He wants me to continue to stay with Walden's Puddle until
Okay.
to go in some capacity. I'm the CEO now, in kind, and do it for free,
Yeah.
philanthropically, and I'll continue to watch over everything because we have an equation that works. And
That's great. It wasn't always like that, like you talked about earlier. Yeah.
my husband and I, Eddie Bears, is the first drummer ever to be inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame.
He's awesome.
Hey folks, I'm on the Walk of Stars. Isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
You know what they did? They destroyed it. I was next to Burl Ives.
Wait, what? What?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Another.
Wait, hold on a second. How did they destroy? They destroyed it?
I got to be my star, and I was inducted, and I did the whole speech and the whole thing, and it was very nice. I got to thank everybody. But then about the year after that, and I laughed so hard, I said, "Here we go again." They destroyed the Country Music Hall of Fame. They jackhammered all the stars. They're gone. And when they did the new Country Music Hall of Fame, they never put us back in. Where there's a whole list of us.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I am. You have to really dig it. So I do hope they one day do that because it would be lovely for people to see. Because there's many of us. There's only 157 in the actual Hall of Fame, and there's thousands of great artists, that people know. So,
Yeah.
but my husband he was inducted, and he accepted that because now when we talk about suffering, if you still have more time.
Mm-hmm.
All right, my husband and we both have a lot of. I did talk about a lot of the horrors that happened, particular things. But he was his mother and sister were killed when he was 16 years old, and he went through abuses like I did, and different things like that. And then his son, which was to become my son, because we were married, we found each other, and we were going to be married, and Eddie was going to be my son, little Eddie. He was killed at 14 years old, and he was a very talented drummer. Now, any of those things could have destroyed somebody. My husband actually was homeless for many years of his life.
Yeah. No, I knew that. Yeah.
And so God brought us together because he always loved the Lord like I did. I always had this love. I knew he was there. I always talked to him. I always called on his name,
Mm-hmm.
and felt his presence and felt supported when I felt like I was, where am I? I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what I'm doing. They're sending me here. They're taking me there. And he was always there. So when Eddie and I got together, all of the struggles and the suffering of our lives, and even together as a marriage, because marriages go through things, we glorified God in that because it was a purification process that brought us to that acknowledgement that he loves us so much. He wanted to just get rid of a few more things,
Yeah.
struggle through this and through that. So in 5-10 years, we're getting older, and to support each other through whatever our health issues are. Eddie does the Opry, but he's doing it every other week now.
Oh, I love it.
Be together for a week and enjoy our time. We're recording here at us. This is our little home studio, making great.
Beautiful.
And keep putting that music out as long as the good Lord is giving me words to write. And I've written one of the greatest songs I've ever written that I'm about to record, do a vocal on, and it will be heard. I would like people to hear it. But on Spotify and Rhapsody, they're finding the songs and they're taking them up their charts. All shall be well, and they're loving the positive songs that I do. So everything that I do is hopefully a reflection of who I am now and my struggle and where I've got to, which it mostly always brings us back to love.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful, Lane. It's very touching, and it's very indicative of this whole journey that you've gone through thus far. Yeah. What do you say if you had to choose? Maybe there's so many points during your talk that you've said about the blessings and the different things that you've gotten. What do you think is probably your biggest blessing that you've had so far?
Oh my goodness! There's no one. I would probably have to say the acknowledgement that by feeling like an outsider, by him allowing me to feel that like an outsider, my face was pressed against, the pains of the country music when I was being forced out, through the and horrible things too. You wouldn't want to know some things.
Yeah.
Is that in that process that I came to realize that I was invited to something greater. I remember when I was even left out of going into the CMA Awards. There was supposed to be a ticket waiting for me, and it wasn't there. It was the year that President Bush Sr. was there.
Oh.
And the man that was supposed to leave me that ticket didn't. And this is when I was ready to leave town. I was ready to go back to LA. I just couldn't take any more rejection. They were playing with me horribly. And I said, I stood there. I was at the bottom of in terms of all the worldly stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm supposed to stay here and see what's going to happen. So I was dressed to the up and the whole thing, and I sat on a table with the Secret Service guys, and I sang the Yellow Rose to them and talked with them for like an hour. And all this person came out and one of the Secret Service said, "Can you give her your ticket so she can go in?" And this woman gave it to me, and I ended up having George Strait sign it for her because she wanted it back. And I said, "Well, who do you want? Whose autograph?" And she said, "I do like that George Strait." I said, "I'll give it for you." So
it's so touching.
So at that moment when I was there, I realized I was not on the outside and everybody was on the inside.
Mm-hmm.
I was someplace where I was being shown, okay, things are not always what they seem, children.
Mm-hmm.
Don't take things literally. They are, in fact, rarely what they seem.
Yeah.
And at that moment, I walked in there, and the great Barry Beckett saw me and said, "What do you do? One of the greatest voices in this city." I said, "I'm leaving. I can't handle it." He said, "You be in my office on Monday." And now I'm not saying this because things got better, but Eddie, I heard a voice one night when I was praying about Eddie because we were friends, only friends.
Okay.
He was in a hellacious relationship like I was. We were both tormented. And I heard a voice that said, "Call Eddie." I had called him, and I had no idea that those two worked together.
Okay.
So when I joined with Barry, Barry said, I want to work with you. And then he found out how horrible the blackballing was. He said, "Man, you're right. same thing ended up happening to him. I mean, this is stuff that happens.
It's regular. Yeah. Yeah. It's unfortunate.
That's when we got together, and that was when the good Lord said, "I'm bringing these two children together."
Yeah.
And our sacrament, we were married in a holy sacrament, and now 30. They got together in 90.
Okay. Oh, when's your anniversary?
And we actually have 3. Don Potter, who played for the Judds for many years, he's a pastor. He married us in our backyard.
Are you serious?
The presence of my dad, who had already passed. It was really wild. Then we got married legally by Judge Feynman in front of the fireplace here in our home.
Okay.
And then we were married in the church. So the church one is in May, in the beginning of May. So
okay, so it'll be 39 years.
No.
Wait, you're married in. Wait, let me do math. This is terrible for me.
4. Hey, Eddie. Which one was in the church? I get confused. But about 20. I know we celebrate our 25th like during COVID, so it's like 26, 27, like 28.
28. Yeah. Oh, well, early congratulations on that. That'll be a beautiful time. Yeah.
We are truly, a blessed. We don't have issues. We don't allow them in. We pray together every night, and if the evil one tries to come in and disrupt everything, out comes the holy water, and we just rebuke it. We don't let it happen. We don't let it happen. We don't get involved in who's right and who's wrong, and we don't do that. We just support each other and listen and honor the sacrament, which is powerful. Which I would also
and respect one another and respect one another's path.
Yes.
Yeah, that's big. So big.
And of course, when you have animals, because we have lots of animals,
I saw a kitty cat, by the way, a little while ago, back on your armrest. He's not there anymore.
That's Anna. This is her room. We have different parts of the house. The cat have that peace for them, and they demand that peace. You don't want to disrupt them.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, you're correct about that with the animals, for sure. Yeah,
I have a tendency to get loud. Greeks talk with their hands, and we can get loud.
Yeah.
But I've come a long way in just tempering things. Yeah, this beautiful thing. I get out in that garden and pray, Lord Jesus Christ, have mercy on me, a sinner. Grant me another day to serve you and to do your work to your glory. Whatever it is I do, to His glory. And that's it.
And what did you say before we started recording? Glory. Yeah, all glory. There you go.
Children, again, when you get stuff, you get money, you get a check, you get this. People have a tendency to thank God, thank God, thank God. But the actual manner that is truly correct and God pleasing is glory to God, because you got a moment of attention, you got a moment of something. So what do you do? It's not like, thank you, God, for this money. Thank you for this fame. That's dangerous, because there's little children everywhere that are suffering, that have no food to eat. And again, I go back to the apostles. They were tortured. They were slaughtered upside down. What do you say to them? So be very
careful about what you speak. Yeah.
Glory to God. That's all. Good, bad, or otherwise. Glory to you, oh God, no matter what. And then do it. You will get through it, because the evil can't come in there. It can't come into space.
Great message, Lane. I love it. I have adored talking with you this afternoon. I think it's
me too.
It's been amazing. I don't want to let you don't get off the hook yet, though, until we do some fun rapid fire questions, because I think it's always fun to learn another side of your personality. So I've got 4 or 5 different fun little questions for you. So are you ready?
Sure.
Okay. All right. First rapid fire question for you today is, who is it that you text the most?
Oh boy, I don't do a lot of texting. Only when I have to.
Yeah.
Well, I would have to say it has to be around Walden's Puddle, because
okay,
ask me about this, ask me about that. Exactly.
There's always constantly something going on. Yeah.
And Eddie and I don't do a lot of texting, because we're together so much, and then we like
to have to
voices.
Yes, you can actually speak to one another. I love it. All right. Number 2, what has been your favorite age thus far in your life?
Oh boy. Now, I just
present.
Yeah, the present always. Yeah. What's coming next, and, just growing.
Oh, I love that. That's again, I keep saying the word invaluable. But it's really true. That's an invaluable piece. It's about staying present. Yeah. Yeah. That's great. Okay. Number 3, are you more of an introvert or an extrovert? And I probably can say, I would say talking to you, I could see a little bit of both.
Very perceptive. That's a highly sensitive person.
There we go.
When I'm out there, when my joy, in being with people is to share, the wealth of what He's given me, the well of joy, and it's holy for me. It's holy joy. It's knowing that this is not it. Whatever happens here, I got something so far greater, and to be able to do that and be with people, I enjoy it. But I'm not so social. I don't really like that. I'm not real comfortable in crowds because I've always been on stage.
Yeah.
And I'm getting much, much more. This was a stretch for me, and this was good for me. And I tried. The good Lord wanted me to do this because I told parts of my story that a lot of people don't know because they're always wondering what happened, like Brody, what happened here? Because they just thought I should have kept going, and they didn't know. So a taste now about it's out there, and I'm glad it is.
Well,
So
thank you for allowing me to be a part of that today.
thank you so much for that. So I am much more reclusive now because this is my sanctuary. It's our hermitage, and we're very protective of it, of our space and our animals. And we don't want to upset anybody or hurt anybody or insinuate that we know anything more than anybody else. Or
Right.
sometimes people think that you think you're holier than thou because you. No.
Well, I think too that they may misplace that
Yeah.
confidence.
This is a place of just where we can be at peace in our faith, in our love for each other, and our prayers for the world, and our prayer, just a sanctuary from coming out of a life of a lot of turmoil, and out of, we don't allow toxic people and toxic situations, and it's very oh boy, now I'm touching on something else. I think I'm supposed to just say this, all right?
Yeah.
But don't hang around toxic people, negative people, not even if they're called your family. Don't.
Yeah.
Find,
Heavy.
yeah. And it doesn't mean that they won't come back around. You won't, you won't shift back around. But no, if they're the kind of people that are constantly creating spin and they're drawing you into it, you're in a, it doesn't end. It doesn't end. Get off that merry-go-round because you want to get off that merry-go-round and you're seeking something greater, and you will find it. You will. But it's scary at first.
Yeah, you have to trust that. That's hard for a lot of people to do.
God's got you. You're not going to fall. If you stay there, you're going to be led where you need to be led. You're going to find, and everybody, the few that I haven't listened to all of yours, but most everybody, they found that. They realized they were going to be led. They're going to, all of a sudden they find themselves somewhere where, wow, and now I'm here, and I'm meeting all these positive people that I can do this work with, and something else. Stay away from people who are toxic, and there. And it's not judging them. You're just saying, I can't handle this in my life. I'm trying to find my way into the light, into a peaceful place and a joyful place. And when you're constantly around people like that, you're not going to get there.
And it's protecting yourself in a certain level, and it's like you said earlier, it's listening.
I also, in being holistic about everything, you have to protect your ears, what you're listening to. Be careful. You have to protect what are you seeing.
Yes,
a lot of stuff you shouldn't be seeing.
Yeah.
Protect that. What are you smelling? What are you saying? What are you tasting? It's holistic. You're protecting. This is the temple. So
all things,
everything.
Yeah.
Everything. And the world is riddled with every kind of thing that can distract you from the glorification of God and distract you from getting on a path that's going to lead you to something greater. So keep on remembering that you may fall a little bit to the left while you're on this path to salvation, which I call salvation, freedom from. You'll fall a little to the right, but always the royal path where you're staying in the middle, where you don't get too excited about things when they're bad or too excited about things when they're good.
Yeah. Either way.
Path, and grateful for every.
Oh, that's it. So important. Yeah. I hate to follow that up with my next question. My next question is kind of corny. You want to hear it?
Sure.
What was your last Google search?
okay, got to be honest with you. Today I Googled the amethyst to the icon, the curse icon of the Virgin Mary.
Okay.
Because this this particular icon is I think it's in Russian because I thought it was in Russian.
This is an icon on your phone?
This is.
Oh, so you Googled up the meaning behind that and the history of it?
But no, what I wanted, because I'm very, I don't know if you can see that, okay, but I'm very cool to amethyst, all the amethyst to the saints and Virgin Mary. Anyway, you saw it there for a minute, because she is a great healer.
Yes.
And that there's an amethyst to her, which is it's paying homage to. In the Orthodox faith, there's amethyst paying homage to so many saints. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people ignore her. I don't at all.
I don't either. No.
She's my mother. I love her and I proclaim her, right? That's it. So I was Googling that amethyst so I could speak some of it in my prayer. But a lot of times what I Google is information on chia seeds and flaxseed, because I eat a lot of that kind of stuff. I'm a vegan. Seeds because I feel like, I'm not going to gorge myself with animals because I'm helping animals and it's been part of the journey not to. It kind of took that away from me. Thank you, God. Yes. So I kind of Google a lot of health information. Yeah. However, I do have one guilty pleasure.
Okay, do tell.
Because it's got to get hilarious because we did some heavy stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know how it found me, but there's this monkey. And it's monkey Kaka and baby Deem. And I think it's coming from Vietnam, and it's their life together. They have this monkey. Not that I think that's necessarily a good thing, because I don't know from the mother or what they did, but the monkey's got this incredible life and very smart. And I look at this now and then and just watch these two together. It's the cutest thing you ever saw.
Oh, how fun. I'll have to check that out.
Humans and animals, because in my heart of hearts, I look back to paradise and I say, okay, we were all together in paradise. We didn't eat each other. And there was peace until the fall. And then the fall of man happens. And guess what we want to go back to? That place. And we'll get there where, animals are no longer, in servitude to humanity. Yeah. And we can to make that start to happen while we're in the here and now, like every other good thing, then we're returning to a state of blessedness with animals. Yeah. So I love to see that synergy between humans and animals. And many of the saints, the animals never ran from them. They actually lighted on them.
Yeah, they were attracted to that. Yeah.
Bears came and kept them warm.
Oh, I love that.
Shoulders.
So I don't think that's necessarily a guilty pleasure, in as much as it's, I think it kind of captures everything that you've been talking about. So it makes sense to me.
This is really beautiful. I feel like his hand is in on this, and I prayed a lot about it and asked him, please help me to just speak, kind words and, words that are really helpful.
Well, you've done that.
You're loved and you're prayed for by people that are strangers, but we're not strangers. And please pray for me. Pray for my eyes, issues with my eyes. I love prayers.
Yes. Amen. Amen, sister. I have so thoroughly enjoyed our time this afternoon.
Dawn, you're something else.
Oh, well, thank you. Likewise, right back at you, sister. Well, I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day, a great rest of your week. Stay warm, because right now in Nashville, it's like freezing outside. Oh.
It's cold.
And enjoy the animals.
Oh, I wish it would snow a little bit.
You might get your wish, actually, in a few more days. Somebody was talking about snow flurries earlier today, and I was like, oh, gosh.
Yeah, great.
Well, hello to your husband. I wish you guys much success, much love, and continued beautiful gratitude for your life, this path that you're walking. It's really, I gotta say the word again. I don't know, I've probably said it a dozen times, invaluable information for people to understand that there are different pieces of life that we all go through. Getting in the weeds of all that stuff that's the way we get to the place of fulfillment.
Yes. And I would ask people out there, Google some of my music, because a lot of my music people find very, very healing and helpful. I wrote a song called All the Unsung Heroes for the military. I'm very well known in the military circles.
Right.
That became a documentary for the Vietnam veterans. just the suffering, struggling veterans. And I'm American through and through. I'm patriotic. I love this country.
Yes.
And don't forget our veterans, not for one day, that they've given us the ability to have the freedom to complain and be spoiled.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
seek some of that music, and it's on Spotify and Rhapsody. And, and just and I'd love to hear from you.
LaneBrody.com.
Lane@lanebrody.com. Yeah.
Let's go. And you respond to all of your emails and your letters too, don't you?
And if there's any questions anyone wants to ask, I would love it. And they can also, I've got an address I can give it to you if you want to post it.
When we post this, I will throw that out there, because I feel like of all people that I've spoken to on this podcast, when you say that, it's that you're walking your walk. Yeah, you mean it.
Yeah. One of my godchildren is actually somebody that heard a song I called White Shadows in Her Darkest Moment. And she followed through with that to try and find who was that. It just showed up on her computer by the grace of God. And she's my goddaughter. She's in South Carolina. Yeah. Oh. Yeah. We don't know. We don't know how we're going to be led to each other. So that's why I said pay attention, because there's going to be messages. You're going to get them. Yeah. So.
Well, I'm going to keep paying attention. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Mwah. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Back to you. You too.
Thanks, Lane. Thanks so much for tuning in today, guys. If you have an idea for an interview, or you would like to share your own story, I would love to hear from you. Send me a message at dawn@thesoulgoals.com. If you enjoyed today's podcast, I'd love for you to leave a review and to consider following and subscribing to the show. With weekly releases, there is always another interesting story to be heard. I do hope that today's guests and their words have helped to bring some extra light to your day and encouraged you to find a deeper space of your very own soul goals. Until next time, friends, remember that everyone has a story, and every story matters.